Hi, and welcome to the Build Muscle Without a Gym program. First, I want to thank you for checking out the course. I truly believe that it will teach you everything you need to know to get started and see results as quickly as possible. To give you a better understanding of what it's all about, let me show you the course overview. I divided the program into four main sections. As you can see, Section 1 is the introduction, in which we are right now. Section 2 goes over the science behind building muscle and losing fat, while Section 3 is the actual workout program with step-by-step instructions and exercise videos to help you train properly. These two sections, 2 and 3, are really the core of this course and what sets it apart from others. If you really want to see results, it's not enough to follow some random workout plan. You have to understand how your body operates and how exactly you can get it to build muscle and lose fat. There is actual science behind this process, and I will teach you how you can use it to your advantage. The last section covers another important aspect, which is often forgotten: how to set goals and stay motivated. Here I talk about SMART goals and share tips that have helped me stay motivated throughout the years. Let me finish this introduction by asking you one question. Are you ready to transform your body with a workout that is proven to get you results? Then let's start. Hey, to get the most out of this course and help you with any questions you might have, I created a private Facebook group for all my students. There you can post your questions, interact with other students, and share your success stories. All you have to do to join is search for Nutrition and Fitness Academy on Facebook and click Join Now. See you inside. Alright, so before we start with the actual program, I want to talk about a number of myths you hear a lot about building muscle and losing fat. If you have studied these subjects or talked to other people, then you've probably come across one of these myths, if not all of them. Problem is that with all the information out there on the internet and all the advice you get from friends and even from personal trainers, that you don't know what to believe. This is why educating yourself is so important. You really need to know what you're doing in order to build a great physique and reach your goals. Alright, so let us start with the first myth. It's really common among beginners to think that in order to build muscle and lose fat, you need to train at least 5 times per week, if not more. Their logic goes as follows. The more you exercise, the more muscle you'll build. Now, why is that not true? The problem with this approach becomes pretty obvious when you know that your body does not build muscle while you exercise, but actually afterwards when it gets time to rest. We will cover the subject more thoroughly later in the course, but for now you need to know that if you do the same exact exercises every day, your muscles never get the necessary time to rest and regenerate. This applies especially to beginners during the first few weeks. Depending on how intense your workout program is, you want to train around 3 to 4 times per week. Remember that overtraining your muscles doesn't only slow down their growth, but it can halt it altogether. You'll get a similar effect if you believe and follow the second myth, which is that your workouts need to be really long, sometimes 2 or even 3 hours. Fortunately, that's not true. As a beginner, I'd recommend to train anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes. Now, what happens if you train longer than that? The problem with these long workouts, let's say 2 or even 3 hours, is that you'll see rapidly diminishing returns for every minute you put into it. Not only will your blood sugar levels start getting very low, which means that your body does not have enough fuel to continue training, but also will you see a rise in your cortisol level, which is the stress hormone. Okay, on to the third myth. Many people actually believe that you need to take in excessive amounts of protein every day to build muscle. In most cases, they read somewhere in a magazine maybe that in order to make sure they have enough protein in their system, they should drink 2, 3, or even 4 protein shakes a day. That's pretty much nonsense. Supplements are meant to enhance an already healthy diet. They're not supposed to substitute it. So if you're eating healthy and protein-rich meals, such as chicken, fish, beans, then there's really no need for a lot of extra protein through supplements. You'll be taking in more protein than your body can actually use. So what will it do? It'll store it as extra fat, which is exactly what you do not want. A good rule of thumb when wanting to estimate your protein needs is consuming 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight every day. Now for the average beginner who's already consuming high protein foods, that means he or she does not need more than 1, maybe 1.5 protein shakes per day. Along with the belief that you need to take in excessive amounts of protein, there's another very common myth which says that you have to eat your meals no more than 3 hours apart. Proponents of this myth argue that instead of eating a few big meals, you should eat smaller meals no more than 3 hours apart to keep your metabolism going and thus burn more calories at the end of the day. The problem with this argument is that research has shown over and over again that changes in body weight are not determined by how often you eat, but how many calories you have consumed at the end of the day. They also found that small meals get broken down and processed a lot quicker than bigger meals, so your metabolism pretty much works the same amount of hours even if you ate more smaller meals. Okay, wrapping this up. I hope I was able to show you that getting in shape and building muscle is not as difficult as many people make it out to be. The following parts of this program are designed to be as straightforward as possible. It will teach you everything you need to know, and if you follow the step-by-step instructions, I promise you that you will become fitter, lose fat, and build more muscle. In this lesson, I want to go over the most common beginner mistakes that will keep you from building muscle and getting in shape. It's important that you learn to identify these mistakes because they can cost you months of hard work and no results. From my experience, I can say that whenever beginners don't reach their fitness goals, the problem is not a lack of motivation. Most of the time, what holds them back is making these few mistakes that have a big negative impact on their training. I will now go over them one by one and explain what you should do to avoid them. The number one beginner mistake is not following a structured workout program. I can guarantee you that doing some random exercises without any strategy will bring you little to no results. Unfortunately, you see a lot of people doing exactly that. In their workouts, they usually place way too much emphasis on their arms and chest and not enough on their legs. What they don't know is that training the same muscle group every time leaves them with not enough time to recover and costs them potential gains. Now, on the other hand, a structured workout plan takes recovery time into consideration and will make life a lot easier for you. Of course, I recommend one of my workout plans, but if you follow a different one, just make sure that depending on how intensively you train a muscle group, your plan includes at least 2 to 5 days of rest before training the same muscle group again. Another common mistake when wanting to build muscle is to do the wrong exercises. In this case, people might even follow a structured routine, which gives them enough time to recover, but because it includes ineffective exercises, they still don't get the results they were hoping for. This mistake is one of the main reasons I made this course. Not all exercises are created equal, and some will definitely help you build more muscle in less time. The exercises in this course are mostly compound exercises, which means they work several muscles at the same time. This creates more overall tension and will trigger more muscle growth. Number 3 on the list is using bad form. The problem with bad form is not only that it increases your risk of injury, it also makes each exercise less effective. The push-up, for example, will only help you develop your chest and arms if you go all the way down and through the complete range of motion. Similar rules apply to all exercises, and it's important you know what you're doing. Please make sure to pay attention during the exercise videos in this course to learn how to do them correctly. I always recommend you focus on form instead of strength in your first few weeks. It's easier to correct flaws early on and important to not make them a habit. The last mistake on the list is not applying progressive overload. I talked about this in the muscle building formula already, but remember that you have to gradually increase the tension placed on your muscle to see long-term growth. You cannot do the same workout and the same number of repetitions for weeks and weeks and expect your body to change. If there's no increase in stress level, then you don't create an incentive for your body to adapt. Now, before I end this lesson, let me tell you that all of these mistakes are easy to correct. You just have to make sure you pay attention to them, especially as a beginner. I know that studying exercise form can seem like a chore at first, but it will only take a few workout sessions, and after a while, you don't even have to think about it anymore. Okay, in this segment, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about the science behind building muscle and strength. Even though the process itself is very straightforward and logical, there is a lot of misunderstanding about it. This is mostly due to contradictory information found on the internet or bad advice given by people that simply don't know what they're talking about. In my experience, the easiest way to explain how to get your body to build more muscle is by using the muscle building formula. It's super simple, yet still contains everything you need to know. As you can see, the formula consists only of 3 different variables that will determine your success. Whenever you want to force your body to build more muscle than you currently have, you'll have to do 3 things. First, there's the obvious training aspect. If you don't stress your muscles, they won't have to adapt, meaning they won't have to grow. Then there's the dietary aspect. You need to provide your body with enough calories so it has the tools to build more muscle tissue. And last but not least, something many people forget, you have to give your body time to rest. Otherwise, it will not be able to recover from the increased stress placed on the muscles while training. Let us take a look at each of these aspects in detail. When creating our workout and coming up with the right exercises, we need to keep in mind that our end goal is to build more overall muscle. There are some exercises better suited for this purpose than others. They're called compound exercises or compound movements. Instead of targeting just one muscle, compound movements work several muscles at once by utilizing multiple joints when doing the exercise. The normal push-up, for example, which is one of the more traditional compound movements, works not only your chest, but also your triceps, your back, and your abs. When doing these exercises, it's important that you know how to properly perform them. Otherwise, you will not only build less muscle, but also risk joint problems and injuries. But don't worry, in part 2 of this program, I'll show you exactly how to do all the exercises you need in a good workout. Now, once you got all the basics down, which I'll teach you in part 2, there's another important concept that many people forget about. It's called the concept of progressive overload, which basically says that in order to build more and more muscle over longer periods of time, you will need to increase the stress placed on them. For someone who trains at a gym, this is pretty simple, because there's always more weight you can add to the bar. However, if we want to work out at home, with minimal equipment and only our bodies, we'll have to come up with a different strategy. What most beginners do here is that they simply increase the number of reps they do every set. After a while, they'll have become better and better and be able to do, let's say, 50 push-ups without taking a break, but wonder why they haven't put on as much muscle as they had expected. The science behind this phenomenon is pretty simple. When increasing the number of reps beyond a certain point, which is around 15, you'll train your muscles more and more in endurance and less in strength. Endurance training itself isn't bad, of course, but when wanting to build more muscle, strength training is a lot more efficient. Just look at sprinters that run a 100-meter dash versus marathon runners that run 42 kilometers. The first one is a lot more muscular, while the second one is skinnier and more lean. You might be asking yourself, if I shouldn't be doing more than 15 or let's say 20 reps per set, how can I increase the stress on my muscles? Since you can't just add weight to the bar because you're not using one, what you have to do is progress to a harder variation of an exercise you're already doing. For example, many beginners start by doing knee push-ups because the normal push-up is a little too difficult for them. So what you should be doing is once you hit the point where you can do 15 to 20 knee push-ups, go to the normal push-up. Then, once you hit the point where you can do 15 to 20 normal push-ups, do the pike push-up, which is a variation of the normal push-up that I'll show you, which is a little more difficult. There are variations for pretty much every exercise in this program, so don't worry about becoming too strong for it. Now, once you have mastered all the variations of the exercises that I'll show you, there are a few ways that you can still increase the resistance and make them more difficult. One simple trick, for example, is to take a backpack and simply load it up with bottles of water or heavy books. You'll then be doing the same exercises as before, but with an increased overall body weight, forcing your muscles to adapt again and grow. Okay, let's quickly talk about cardio before going to the nutrition part of the muscle building formula. What role cardio will play in your workout really depends on your goals. I, for example, am not a big fan of cardio because I have a really fast metabolism. This means that even when I sit around all day, my body will burn a lot of calories. Before starting to work out, I was a really skinny guy, and my main concern was to pack on size. I remember eating big amounts of food, and had I been doing a lot of cardio, then I would have had to eat even more. If this applies to you as well, then you should really limit your cardio at first. Because remember, the purpose of cardio is to burn calories, which is only helpful when you're trying to lose weight and not when you're trying to build muscle. While it is possible for beginners to do both at the same time, we'll focus on that in the next lesson, the weight loss formula. For now, just keep in mind that when you want to build muscle, less calories burned is actually a good thing. That doesn't mean, of course, you shouldn't be doing any cardio at all. It's a great way to train your heart and lungs, and it will help raise your overall fitness level. This brings me to the second part of the muscle building formula. Nowadays, many people think of calories as evil things that need to be avoided. But in fact, when wanting to build muscle, there's almost nothing more important than a caloric surplus. Imagine you have a house and you want to expand it. You want to build another floor on top. What do you need? Extra bricks. When building muscle, calories are your bricks. They measure the energy stored in our food. Without this energy, your body will not be able to grow more muscle tissue, which in turn renders your exercise pretty much pointless. This might come as a surprise to you. I know that many people think they should always be eating less calories. They think that eating more will only make them fat, and they're usually afraid of going into caloric surplus. This is where good versus bad calories come into play. In theory, you could only eat pizza and ice cream and you would quickly reach your caloric surplus. Obviously, this is not what is meant when talking about taking in enough healthy calories. You really need to make sure to watch your proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and make sure to not get them from sources such as fast food. But don't worry, we'll talk about this more in the nutrition part of this program. Besides your workout and diet, recovery is the third main factor on your road to muscle glory. What you need to know is that the exercise itself works only as a trigger for muscle growth. During your training, you overload the muscles and break down muscle fibers. If you provide your body with the right nutrition and enough time to recover, they will grow back larger in order to withstand higher workloads in the future. Keep in mind that muscles don't grow while you train, but afterwards. The body builds stronger muscle fibers only when it has time to recover, and this is done for the most part while we sleep. You should be getting at least 7 to 9 hours of uninterrupted sleep per night. Anything below 7 hours and you'll sacrifice possible muscle gains and even your health in general. If you find yourself under a lot of stress or simply can't sleep that long, try taking regular naps throughout the day. There are also other ways to maximize your recovery ability, like meditating, massages, or even prescription drugs. However, they can only enhance your rest and should never substitute a good night of sleep. When choosing a fitness program, many people's goal is not only to build muscle, but also to lose fat. I will now show you how to lose fat in a scientific way that is proven to get you results. Unfortunately, there's so much wrong information and misconception out there about fat loss that it's easy to get hooked on every new diet or supplement that promises to get you results in no time. However, most of them won't have any effect on your overall weight, and some extreme diets can even hurt your general health. Instead of trusting every new fitness guru who's really only trying to sell you his diet, you need to understand what will trigger fat loss in your body from a mechanical point of view. As you will see, the science behind it is actually really simple. If we want to lose weight, all we have to do is consume less calories than our bodies burn on a consistent basis. As I explained in the muscle building formula, calories measure the energy stored in our food. Now, if you provide your body with less energy than it expands on a daily basis, it'll start reducing its fat stores in order to stay alive. This rule is universal, meaning that it goes for anyone, anywhere in the world. What many people don't understand, because it's a little counterintuitive, is that these calories can come from anywhere. You could be eating nothing but pizza. As long as the total calories are less than your body expands, you will be losing weight. So does that mean it doesn't matter if you're eating healthy or unhealthy foods, as long as the calories fit? No, of course not. There's a big difference between weight loss and healthy weight loss. In order to lose weight the healthy way, you'll have to do a little more than just count your calories. If you want your fat loss regimen to be as effective as possible, you can not only look at the total calorie value of your food, you'll also have to look at the different percentages of the macronutrients in your diet, which means that a certain percentage of your diet should be made up of healthy fats, carbohydrates, and protein. We will talk about what foods to choose when wanting to build muscle and lose fat in the nutritional part of this program. And lastly, training also plays a key part in your weight loss success. Even though running a caloric deficit and eating only healthy foods is a good start to losing weight, if you don't exercise, your body will also lose muscle. This is not what we want. We want our weight loss to be due to less fat in our body while keeping our strength. So there you have it. The 3 things you need to keep in mind when wanting to lose fat is that first, you need to eat less calories than your body expands. Second, your diet should consist of a certain percentage of carbs, fats, and protein. And third, make sure to exercise to not lose any muscle. Okay, so after you learned all this, you'll probably ask yourself, if I need a calorie surplus to build muscle and a calorie deficit to lose weight, how do these two go together? Is it possible to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time? The answer to this question is a little more complicated, and anyone trying to tell you that you can gain crazy amounts of muscle while losing all your body fat is simply lying. First, the bad news. In theory, it's almost impossible to be doing both at the same time. This is due to the fact that our body needs the extra energy for a process called protein synthesis. Only at a caloric surplus will it be able to repair the muscle fibers that were damaged during your training. This is why most athletes and bodybuilders work in 2 phases. First, they try to add as much strength and size while eating at a caloric surplus. This is called bulking. And then they change to a calorie deficit where they try to maintain as much muscle as possible while losing fat. This is called cutting. Now there are some good news. Even though experienced athletes work in these 2 phases, most beginners can still do both at the same time. This is because in the first few months of working your muscles, they'll adapt a lot more quicker than afterwards. This newbie advantage will outweigh the problems of protein synthesis at a caloric deficit. This effect is pretty amazing because it means that within a few weeks you can make drastic changes to your body. Okay, so before we wrap up this section on fat loss, I want to cover a few myths that you see a lot in the fitness community. First is the spot reduction myth. Many people believe that fat loss can be localized to a certain region of your body. They believe that ab crunches will make them lose fat around their belly and push-ups around their chest. Now, even though I would love this myth to be true, it isn't. Unfortunately, fat loss always occurs in your entire body and not only in specific regions. The phenomenon that some people lose fat faster in their thighs or arms is simply due to a difference in genetics and has nothing to do with the exercises they're doing. Another common misbelief is that cardio will always make you lose weight, and thus more cardio means more fat loss. Now it is true that physical exercise, including cardio, will make your body burn more calories than just sitting around, but you still always have to watch how many you're taking in. So you could be doing 4 hours of cardio every day. If at the same time you ate 5,000 calories, you'd still be gaining weight. What it really comes down to is not how much cardio you do, but calories in versus calories out. The last myth says that in order to get ripped and defined muscles, you need to be doing a higher number of repetitions. This claim also doesn't stand the test of science. Muscle definition has nothing to do with the number of repetitions and everything with your body fat percentage. If you want to look ripped, you'll have to lose fat. Fortunately, you now know how. We've already talked a little bit about diet and nutrition and the muscle building and fat loss formula. Now I want to go into more detail and show you everything you need to know about this subject. Some people say the right nutrition makes up 70% of your overall success, and your workout having only 30% impact. Others even go so far as to say the ratio is 80 to 20%. No matter what the true values may be, every experienced personal trainer will agree that the right diet is essential to reaching your fitness goals. Even though nutrition is such a wide subject, there are some underlying principles that you really need to understand. The first and most important rule of your diet is to provide your body with what it needs to function properly. The purpose of this program is not only to show you how to build a nice physique, but also how to live a more healthy and active life. You should really see your fitness journey as a way of improving your quality of life and overall level of happiness. Therefore, the role of nutrition is always to help your body stay healthy so it can perform the way you want it to. So what does our body need in order to stay healthy? Next to the obvious things such as air and water, there are really only two major nutritional categories. First, the micronutrients. They include vitamins and trace minerals. Our body needs micronutrients only in very small amounts, mostly to help trigger certain reactions in our body or to contribute to the synthesis of things such as proteins or fats. Along with carbohydrates, protein and fats make up the so-called macronutrients. They are the main sources of energy for our body, with 1 gram of carbs and protein yielding 4 calories and 1 gram of fat yielding around 9 calories. Let's look at each one of them in more detail, starting with the carbohydrates or carbs. Unlike many people think, carbs are not evil. Instead, they're an important source of energy that can be used a lot quicker than proteins or fats, for example. When exercising, having carbs in your system will help prevent the body from using protein as an energy source, which protects the muscle from eating itself. Another really important thing about carbohydrates is that there's different kinds of them. Without going into too much detail here, you need to know that there are simple and complex carbohydrates. Simple carbs are made of just 1 or 2 sugar molecules. These are the kinds of carbs you'll find in soft drinks, syrups, and candy. In general, they should be avoided, and there are really only 2 situations where it makes sense to consume simple carbs. They are right after waking up when your body needs some quick energy, and right after your workout when your blood sugar levels are really low. For these 2 situations, I recommend eating 1 tablespoon of honey. Now to the complex carbs, just like the name says, they consist of longer chains of sugar molecules that your body needs to break down first before using it as an energy source. When wanting to build a healthy diet, complex carbs are really the way to go, and I'll now show you the best sources for them. As a general rule of thumb, you can say that around 40% of your total calories should come from carbs. These carbs can be vegetables, oatmeal, brown rice, quinoa, all kinds of whole grain products, and potatoes, both sweet and normal potatoes. Like I said before, try to avoid the simple carbs that are found in candy, processed cereal, fast food, white bread, white pasta, all these kinds of things. Okay, let's talk about protein. Your body needs protein to build and repair cells. This is why it's so important to have enough protein in your system when wanting to build muscle. Athletes, and really everyone who's doing a lot of sports or exercise, need more protein than the average person. They should be consuming around 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which is around 1 gram per pound of body weight. Your protein intake should be a little less than your intake of carbs, around 30% of your total calories. Good protein sources are things like fish, cheese, lean beef, or milk and eggs. If you are a vegetarian, then you should focus more on things like peas, quinoa, or nuts and nut butters. On to the last important macronutrient, the fats. Just like carbs, fats are often misunderstood and proclaimed as evil. The problem is not that fats are bad, but that most people eat the wrong kinds of fats. They eat too many saturated and trans fats, which increase your cholesterol, while eating not enough healthy unsaturated fats. In fact, our bodies really need those healthy fats for our nervous system and to help regulate hormone production. What you also need to know is that they are the densest energy source among the three macronutrients. Like I said before, 1 gram of carbs and protein yields around 4 calories, while 1 gram of fat yields around 9 calories. Just like protein, fat should make up around 30% of your total calories, and good sources include avocados, eggs, olive oil, coconut oil, and even dark chocolate. Foods that you should avoid obviously include things like fast food, popcorn, cookies, potato chips, and all kinds of frozen foods. Okay, so now that you know what kinds of nutrients and how much of them you should be eating, let's look at the second most important rule of nutrition. Whatever your individual goals are, you need to adjust your diet accordingly. Think of it as a tool that will help to multiply or divide your fitness results depending on how effective you use it. The two main goals people have is to build muscle and to lose fat. Even though we covered most of this in the muscle building and fat loss formula, let me give you a quick recap of what you need to know. Whenever you want to build more muscle, you really need to focus on a calorie surplus. This means you need to be taking in more calories than your body expands. Of these total calories, 40% should be carbs, 30% protein, and 30% fats. Of course, you don't need to go crazy and count every last calorie, but try to stay within this ratio. When wanting to lose fat on the other side, you'll need to cut down on calories to create a calorie deficit, while increasing your protein intake to make sure your body has enough protein to maintain its muscle tissue. Now the last point is also important, what to eat before and after your workout. Both meals should be really high in carbs and protein. I suggest you eat some oatmeal and drink half a protein shake 30 minutes before your workout, and eat a banana and drink the other half of the protein shake right after your workout. Some people also like to add a tablespoon of honey to their post-workout shake. This will make sure to get you those simple carbs we talked about earlier. When talking about nutrition, of course, we also need to talk about supplements. As a beginner, you really need to understand that most of the supplements out there are really just a waste of your money. The supplement industry has grown to a billion-dollar marketing machine that oftentimes wants to sell you overpriced pills or powders, which will have little to no actual effect on your body. However, this doesn't mean that there aren't a few good supplements that you should be taking. The first and most important supplement is a good protein powder. Even though in theory you could get all your required protein from your normal diet, this can be inconvenient because you have to eat big amounts of fish, chicken, or other protein-rich foods. In order to avoid having to cook all the time, protein powder can be a really effective supplement to your normal diet. The second supplement I recommend taking is creatine. Creatine is an organic acid found naturally in food. It exists in substantial quantities in things like beef and fish. It will help you reduce muscle soreness after a workout, build muscle, and improve strength. I know that some beginners are afraid of taking creatine because they heard it can cause kidney damage, but don't worry, these claims have been disproven by countless studies. And lastly, I recommend taking a good fish oil supplement. You don't have to take it if you're eating a lot of fish and getting your omega fatty acids through your normal diet, but most of us aren't, so it makes sense to supplement fish oil, which is really important for your nervous system and joints. Okay, so to end this lesson on diet and nutrition, here's a quick summary of what we've covered. The number one rule of nutrition is to give your body what it needs to function properly. There we talked about micro and macronutrients and how carbs, protein, and fats are important for your diet and what sources are good and what sources are bad. The number two rule is that you have to adjust your diet according to your goals. If you want to build muscle, keep in mind a calorie surplus. If you want to lose fat, keep in mind a calorie deficit with a high protein intake. And in both cases, remember about the importance of pre- and post-workout meals. Lastly, we talked about supplements and how you don't need most of them. The only three I recommend are protein powder, creatine, and fish oil. Once you know you're getting all of your total macros right for the day, both your pre- and post-workout meal are the most important meals of the day, and not your breakfast like many people believe. Let's first talk about pre-workout nutrition. Its main function is to fuel the workout itself and maximize your performance throughout. Sounds simple, right? That's because it is. Unfortunately, the fitness world has really overcomplicated this, and many gurus will sell you super specific recommendations or products that really don't make a difference. Let's now cut through all of this nonsense and figure out exactly what you should be eating before your workout. Like I said before, this meal is meant to fuel your workout. So, in a scientific sense, it's meant to do three things: reduce muscle glycogen depletion, reduce muscle protein breakdown, and reduce post-workout cortisol levels. Now, how exactly do you accomplish this? Easy. You eat carbs and protein before your workout. What this means is that the most important rule of your pre-workout meal is to consume a good amount of both carbs and protein before you train. I know this sounds very simple and maybe too simple to you, but let me tell you that way too many people overcomplicate this and fear that if they don't consume X grams of protein and X grams of carbs X minutes before their workout, they will build no muscle or lose no fat. Fortunately, that's not the case, and anyone telling you otherwise is probably trying to sell you some overpriced supplement. Of course, I don't want to leave you with no guidelines at all, so I will give you a few rough values that you can keep in mind when you prepare your pre-workout meal. The true specifics here will always differ from person to person and depend on what time of the day you work out or how much time you actually have before your workout, but it's a good reference. If you can, eat a balanced meal with 0.2 to 0.25 grams per pound of your target body weight for both carbs and protein around 1 hour before your workout. Now, in case you don't have time for that and or your last meal lies more than 2 hours prior to your training, consume liquid or easily digested protein and carbs 30 minutes before your workout. This could be a protein shake with a banana, for example. The liquid will be more easily digested, allowing your body to absorb nutrients faster. I personally like to eat a normal meal of brown rice, chicken, and vegetables an hour before my workout. You see, this is nothing special, just protein and carbs coming from normal foods 1 to 2 hours before working out. This is what is proven to get you the best results and will keep things as simple as possible. There's really no need to get any more complicated than that, and no need to obsess about the specifics. Last but not least, in case you don't like rice and chicken or don't want to eat it every day, here's some more suggestions for pre-workout meals. Meals that you can eat up to 1 hour before your workout include oatmeal with whey protein mixed in, a large chicken sandwich with whole grain bread, 2 or more hard-boiled eggs on an avocado toast, whole grain pasta with some sort of protein, again chicken or meat or whatever source of protein you prefer. Snacks that you can eat 30 minutes or less before your workout include a banana with a protein shake, apple wedges and peanut butter, or a protein bar. Okay, now that you know what to eat before your workout, let's see what's best after your workout. Your post-workout meal is meant to supply your body with everything it will need to repair and recover the muscle tissue that was broken down during your workout. Specifically, the goal of the post-workout meal is to accomplish the following: replenish muscle glycogen that was depleted during your workout, reduce muscle protein breakdown caused by exercise, increase muscle protein synthesis, reduce muscle soreness and fatigue, enhance overall recovery, and reduce cortisol levels. How can you achieve this? By giving your body the same exact macronutrients that you did in the pre-workout meal: carbs and protein. Again, your primary goal with your post-workout meal is to consume a good amount of both carbs and protein in some form soon after your workout. How much and how soon exactly, you ask? Again, around 0.2 to 0.25 grams per pound of your target body weight. If you're really hungry, you can also increase the carbs. These are just some general values to keep in mind. Timing should be around 30 to 60 minutes after your workout, and pre- and post-workout meals shouldn't be separated by more than 3 to 4 hours. That means if you had a large meal an hour before your workout, you have more time afterwards to prepare your post-workout meal. One tip on days when you don't have the time to prepare an entire meal right away is to pack a post-workout shake. I explain how to do this in a later lesson, and it's super simple. Okay, let's now talk about one of the most controversial topics there is in fitness and nutrition, and that is cheat days and cheat meals. I will start with the smaller version of the two, the cheat meal. Let's assume you've been eating clean for most of the week, consuming healthy foods like chicken breast, fish, oatmeal, rice, and veggies. And now you're wondering if it would be okay to sneak in that chocolate bar or cheeseburger at the end of the week without compromising your results. This is what's typically known as a cheat meal, a small amount of junk food that you include in your diet as a reward for the hard work you've been putting in. So, are cheat meals okay? Is having some high sugar, high fat food here and there going to have any negative effect on your muscle building or fat burning progress? The short answer is no, as long as you keep your calories and macros in check. Remember what I taught throughout the course. Calorie balance and macronutrients are the most important aspects of your diet. Your body does not view your diet within the context of individual food items. It does not distinguish between a piece of fish, a potato, a cup of broccoli, and a Snickers bar. All it sees is the entire diet as a whole, the total calories, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, fibers, and micronutrients all combined into one giant ball of chewed up goo. If you're eating clean the majority of the time and then have a slice of pizza, it's not as if a giant red light begins flashing within your body. Fat storage doesn't go into overdrive and your health and energy levels will not plummet. Remember that proper nutrition is all about the big picture. The key is simply moderation and tracking. That's why I always tell my students that 80 to 90% of the diet should be coming from traditional clean and healthy foods, and the remaining 10 to 20% can come from whatever foods they like as long as they fit their total daily calories and proteins, carbs, and fats. This will ensure that your needs are being fully met when it comes to quality protein, fiber, and micronutrients, but it also leaves you with 10 to 20% of your total calories to play around with however you like. As long as you stick to the basics of correct dieting, cheat meals are not going to magically cause you to get fat or lose muscle. I know that a lot of fitness gurus on Instagram or YouTube preach that they can eat clean 24/7. And that's fine if they have the time and energy to do that. But the average person is often under a lot of stress and requires a more flexible approach to dieting. Just remember that this isn't a free ticket to begin eating tons of ice cream and pizza. The flexible foods that you include still need to reasonably fit into your overall diet as a whole in terms of calories, proteins, carbs, and fats. And that's the problem with cheat days instead of cheat meals. Cheat days are entire days where you don't watch your calories and macro intake and just eat whatever you like. In its simplest form, fat loss always comes down to a numbers game based on your total calorie intake versus your total calorie expenditure. In other words, in the big picture, over the course of a few days and weeks, you must maintain a net calorie deficit by burning more calories than you consume. If you don't have a proper calorie deficit in place, you aren't going to lose any fat at all. Individual cheat meals won't significantly affect this, but entire days can. For example, let's say you were following a standard deficit of 500 calories below your maintenance level. This would mean that over the course of 6 days you have created a total deficit of 3,000 calories. If you now go ahead with your cheat day on the 7th day, every calorie that you consume above your maintenance level will be directly counteracting that 3,000 calorie deficit you had in place. Everyone is different, of course, and has different appetites, but trust me when I say that you can easily eat 1,500 calories above maintenance on your cheat day. That would already cut your weekly deficit in half. Now imagine going all out and eating 2,000 or even 3,000 calories above maintenance. That way you basically lose all the progress you made throughout the week. All it takes is a couple high-calorie restaurant meals, some cake and some ice cream for dessert. So to wrap things up, always keep an eye on your daily and weekly calories. To lose fat, make sure that you stay at a deficit, and as long as you account for the right proteins, carbs, and fats, you will be fine. Cheat meals probably won't affect this, but cheat days most definitely can. At the end, the best approach is always to develop a flexible diet that fits your individual lifestyle and preferences. One thing you probably noticed while I was talking about post-workout nutrition is the lack of the phrase anabolic window. The idea of the anabolic window is that you have a specific window of time after your workout to eat food, and if you do this, your muscle growth is accelerated. If you don't, however, you will miss out on this benefit or even worse, lose muscle. Now, most proponents of this idea usually will tell you that the time window is anywhere from a few minutes to half an hour after you finished your workout. They will say that the sooner you provide your body with protein and carbs after your workout, the better. However, there has been quite a bit of research done on this topic, and today we know that this window is a lot larger if it even exists in the first place. Like I said in the previous lessons, if you eat within an hour after your workout, you will be fine. And the closer your pre-workout meal was to your workout, the more time you have afterwards. The bottom line is that it makes sense to eat a balanced meal after you train, but you don't have to do this as soon as you're done with your last set. As long as you stick to the basics, you will be fine. When it comes to post-workout shakes, you will notice a lot of debate online over their importance and what makes up the perfect shake. As with everything fitness related, unfortunately there's a lot of bro science and myths out there. So let's take a look at some science-based facts so you can decide for yourself. So the first question, do you even need a post-workout shake? The short answer is not really. This might surprise you because we have all been told about the anabolic window and how after a workout your glycogen stores are depleted. To avoid muscle breakdown, you need to take in protein and simple carbs right after your workout. While the logic of this theory sounds convincing, empirical studies have found no evidence to support the claims that simple carbs are needed right after your workout to avoid muscle breakdown. The case for post-workout protein is a little more complicated. Some studies show a positive effect of post-workout protein on protein synthesis, while others find no such relation. Overall, it seems that as long as you meet your daily calorie and nutritional requirements through your normal diet, a post-workout protein shake will have little to no impact on your muscle gains. So does that mean a post-workout shake is completely useless? Not so fast. As you will see in a minute, there is still an argument for the post-workout shake to be made. Even though research suggests that there is no such thing as a 30-minute anabolic window, it still makes sense to take in quality protein and carbs 1 to 2 hours after your training, just like I taught you in the lesson on post-workout meals. Unfortunately, there are days when you don't have the time to prepare an entire meal right away. And this is where post-workout shakes come into play. They are quick to prepare and easy to drink when you're on the go. Here's what I put in mine. Around 40 to 50 grams of instant oats and about 30 grams of whey protein, maybe even a little more. A good idea is to also add a banana. It really tastes good, and you can either eat it separately like I do, but if you have a blender, feel free to add it to the shake. Some people also like to add peanut butter, which acts as a good source of unsaturated fats. The shake can be mixed with water, milk, juice, or whatever liquid you want to add. Step into any gym around the globe and you will most likely see someone with a protein shake. In fact, protein powder is probably the most commonly used supplement out there along with creatine. While scientific studies help debunk myths that protein powders cause kidney damage, most people are still confused about the proper use of them. So in this lesson, I will address the most common questions related to protein powder. Number 1, is a protein powder absolutely necessary to build muscle? No. Even though your body requires more protein when you want to build muscle through strength training, this doesn't mean you have to use protein powder or any other protein supplement for that matter. As long as you reach your recommended daily protein intake, you will be fine and see results. However, consuming enough protein every day can be tricky, especially when you don't have the time to prepare high protein meals all the time. That is why most athletes and bodybuilders use protein powders in addition to a balanced diet. So if you're crunched for time, a good protein powder can really make your life easier. Number 2, what type of protein powder is best? There are a lot of protein powders you can buy, but the most common ones are powders based on whey, casein, or egg. You will also find vegan powders such as rice or other plant-based alternatives. Within the fitness and bodybuilding community, there's always a lot of discussion about the best protein supplement. On any online forum, you will most certainly find people praising their protein powder due to its special amino acid profile or some other magic ingredient. What is often forgotten, however, is the fact that as long as you don't get all your daily protein from supplements, which is never a good idea, you won't notice these tiny differences among the different forms of protein. For example, it is often noted that vegan powders have an inferior amino acid profile when compared to whey protein.
Now, it is true that many vegan powders lack one or more of the 9 essential amino acids, but this won't matter if the rest of your diet is balanced enough to supply you with all the essential amino acids. What this means is that protein powder selection is more about personal preference and less about actual source. With that being said, there are two forms of protein that I don't recommend to beginners: beef protein and soy protein. The problem with beef protein is not so much the beef. After all, it's one of the best whole food sources of protein, but the fact that most of the time you aren't getting the real thing. Many beef protein powders are made from what is left after you take away the quality meat. This includes ligaments, joints, and even ears and hoofs, which isn't exactly what you had in mind when you bought it, right? Soy protein, on the other hand, can negatively affect your testosterone levels due to it being rich in plant-based estrogen. There is still not enough research on how this impacts your ability to build muscle mass, but I would avoid or limit soy protein intake as long as we don't know more. Number 3. When should you take protein powder? You have probably been told that you need to drink your protein shake right after your workout. If this has led you to run into the locker room and prepare your shake as soon as you got done with your last workout set, I have good news. Protein timing is nearly as important as people make it out to be. Even though some studies show a positive effect of post-workout protein on protein synthesis, others find no such relation. Overall, it seems that as long as you meet your daily calorie and nutritional requirements through your normal diet, and this includes eating a full meal within 2 hours before your workout, it doesn't matter when you drink your protein shake. Number 4. How much protein powder should you consume? This depends on how much total protein you need to consume per day. Remember that around 1 gram per pound of body weight works as a rule of thumb. The majority of your diet should always be based on whole foods, a rule which applies not only to protein but all macronutrients. So try to include fish, chicken, beef, eggs, or any other quality protein source, and use protein powder only as a supplement and not as a substitute. Depending on your lifestyle, required protein intake, and willingness to cook, I suggest you get around a third to maximum a half of your protein from protein shakes. Number 5. What is the best liquid to mix protein powder with? Water is probably the most commonly used option here. Since it has no calories, water is ideal for any calorie-restricted weight loss diet. The only drawback might be the thin consistency, which can make the shake taste less creamy. Another option is milk, which will provide you with some additional protein, but also leads to a higher calorie count. This makes it less of an option when wanting to lose fat. Obviously, milk is also not an option if you're lactose intolerant or have any other kind of milk allergy. Other alternatives include soy or almond milk. Unless you buy fat-free, soy milk is typically higher in calories than regular milk and often has added sugars. Of course, the disadvantages of soy protein, which I talked about before, also apply to soy milk. Almond usually has a lower calorie count if bought unsweetened and adds a bit more of a creamy taste. Okay, to wrap up this video, here's a short summary of how to use protein powder properly. The most common protein powder is whey protein, but as long as you follow a balanced diet, any type of protein powder works, with the exception of beef and soy protein. As long as you meet your daily requirements through your normal diet and eat an adequate pre-workout meal, protein timing will have only small effects on your results. Try to get no more than a third to a half of your daily protein from protein shakes. And which liquid you choose is really up to you as long as you track the calories and protein that you get from the shake.
Hey, thanks for taking the course. At this point, I have a small favor to ask of you. It would be awesome if you could leave a review. They're really important for us instructors and really help us out. Of course, if you have any questions about the course content so far, feel free to use the Q&A section so others can see your question as well. I wish you all the best with the rest of the course and have a great day.
When wanting to build muscle, creatine is one of the few supplements that actually delivers on its promise to help you see more gains. Moreover, study after study has proven that creatine is safe, and so far no side effects could be found in healthy adults. Before we go over how to use creatine properly, let's summarize what it actually does to improve your workout results. Creatine is an organic acid that helps supply the muscle cells with energy during high-intensity, short-duration exercise. Even though it is a non-essential nutrient, because our body can produce creatine naturally, supplementation makes sense as it will further improve performance, mostly through more strength.
Without going into too much detail here, creatine helps produce ATP more quickly, which is the primary energy molecule used during weight training. Faster ATP availability translates to more strength, which in turn means more lean muscle gains over time. Along with increased strength, creatine will cause more water retention in the muscles, which makes them appear bigger and fuller. Okay, so how do you use creatine correctly? Here's my step-by-step guide. First, which form of creatine should you use? The research is clear on this one. Creatine monohydrate is still the most effective form of creatine. While its variations like crealkaline or creatine ethyl ester are often sold for more than double the normal creatine price, scientific studies show no additional benefits. If you want to save money without sacrificing results, go with a traditional creatine monohydrate supplement. To make sure you're getting 100% monohydrate, look for the Creapure trademark, one of the most well-known suppliers of creatine monohydrate in the world. When should I take creatine? Creatine doesn't have immediate effects, so its timing really doesn't matter. This also means taking it before your exercise won't lead to increased strength right away. Every now and then you will hear someone telling you that you should take it after your workout because it has been shown to lead to better results. Usually they will cite a study which supposedly proves that taking it post-workout leads to better absorption. However, the researchers themselves admitted that the difference was so small that their findings weren't statistically relevant. In practice, this means that you can take creatine whenever it fits you best. I personally like to drink it in the morning along with a protein shake, simply because that way I have to worry about one less supplement throughout the day. How much creatine should I take? The short answer is 3 to 5 grams per day, which is about a teaspoon. This is enough to saturate the muscle within 2 to 4 weeks and enough for maintenance afterward. Taking in more won't lead to better results as you will pee out the excess creatine. With what liquid should I mix creatine? To be honest, whatever drink you prefer. It used to be common practice to mix creatine with a high sugar drink or some kind of juice, but research has again shown that this leads to no increase in creatine uptake. The spike in insulin levels triggered by the sugar might lead to faster absorption, but as I explained before, this doesn't lead to better performance right away. Do I need a loading phase? No. Some people like to do a loading phase, which involves taking 20 grams per day for 5 to 7 days before switching to the recommended dose of 3 to 5 grams per day. Whether or not you want to do this is up to you. The higher initial dose will lead to a faster saturation of the muscle cells, but only by a few days, and the normal dose will also get you there. Do I have to cycle creatine? No, there are no studies that link continued creatine use with health risks or decrease in the body's natural production of creatine. If for some reason you want or have to stop taking creatine, your body won't undergo any withdrawal symptoms besides the decrease in strength.
Okay, so now that we have gone over the necessary theory behind building muscle and good dieting, let's take a look at the actual workout you'll be doing. The great thing about bodyweight workouts is that they require no equipment except maybe the optional pull-up bar, which means that you can do them anywhere, anytime. Not only at home, but also when you're traveling and you don't want to sign up for a gym. To recap what we have learned so far, let's quickly take a look at the muscle building formula. You know that in order to build muscle, you need to train, provide your body with enough energy/calories, and rest. Within this equation, your training acts as the trigger that signals your body to grow muscle. When working out, you put your body in an environment that it's not used to. When following the right workout plan, your body will want to adapt to this new environment by building more muscle. Our bodies are designed to do this because the ability to adapt to changing environments is what has kept our species alive throughout history. Now, when you want to continue to build muscle over longer periods of time, you need to keep forcing your body to adapt to new stress levels. This is done through progressive overload, which translates to increasing the tension placed on your muscles over time. In bodyweight exercises, where you can't just add weight to the bar, you apply progressive overload by starting out with a simple exercise and then gradually switching to a more difficult variation of that exercise. For example, if you start out by doing knee push-ups, let's say you can do 8 knee push-ups, then first you want to focus on increasing your repetitions. Throughout the next workouts, you try to always do a few more reps each set. This will already force your muscle to grow, however the effect diminishes the higher you go in rep count, so once you reach a certain number of repetitions, around 15 to 20, you switch to normal push-ups. Since they are more difficult than knee push-ups, your rep count will drop. How much depends on the exercise. Sometimes you'll be able to do almost as many as before, and sometimes you can't even do half. Now that you're doing normal push-ups, the next step is again focusing on bringing up your rep count to 15-20 reps before you change to a more difficult variation, for example, the one-handed push-up or normal push-ups with weights on your back. Now that we have done this short recap, let's take a look at the actual workout you'll be doing. A good beginner workout needs to be designed to follow the rules of muscle building while giving you the opportunity to progress over time. I advise you to follow an upper-lower body workout split, training 4 days a week. This might seem like a lot, but keep in mind that each workout shouldn't take longer than 30 to 40 minutes. That's 2.5 hours per week, which is really nothing if you think about how much time we spend in front of the computer or TV every day. The first and third workout day will consist of an upper body workout routine. Depending on your strength level, you start by doing 3 sets of push-ups or 3 sets of knee push-ups, followed by 3 sets of pike push-ups. If you can't do the pike push-up, put your hands on an elevated surface. This makes the exercise a lot easier. Next, you do 3 sets of bench dips, which is a great way to train your triceps. This is followed by 3 sets of chin-ups. Most beginners have problems with the normal chin-up, so you might want to start with the underhand grip body row instead. You finish the workout by doing 3 sets of Supermans. Please watch the exercise videos to make sure you use correct form at all times. The second and the fourth workout day consists of a lower body workout routine. Start by doing 4 sets of squats, followed by 3 sets of lunges. Next you do 3 sets of the glute bridge and 2 sets of ab crunches, followed by 2 sets of twisting crunches. You finish the workout by doing 2 sets of the air bike. Again, please watch the exercise videos to make sure you use correct form. Here's some things to keep in mind during the workout. I want you to do all sets 1 rep short of failure. This is where the sweet spot lies between going all out and not placing enough tension on the muscle to trigger growth. If you train to failure on all sets, you risk losing strength for the following exercises. That means you don't have to go all out, but you should come close. Finding this point can be a little tricky, but it becomes easier as you work out more often. In terms of rest, I want you to take a 1 to 2 minute break between sets and 2 to 3 between exercises. As a rule of thumb, the heavier the exercise, the longer you should rest in between sets. Before lighter exercises, like the ones targeting your abs or Supermans, 1 minute should be enough. We have already covered the optimal method of progression before, but here's an example of what it would look like applied to this workout. Start with an exercise that you feel comfortable with and which you can do with perfect form. Once you can do 20 reps on all sets of an exercise, switch to a more difficult variation. If you feel that 20 reps is a little too high, you can also try switching at 15 reps. Now over the course of the next few workouts, focus on bringing up your rep count to 20 again before switching to a more difficult variation. In the case of the upper body routine, let's suppose you start by doing push-ups and can do 20 of them on each set. To progress, you either advance to the one-handed push-up or do the exercise wearing a backpack with a few water bottles inside. The same principle applies to the pike push-up. Once you can do 20 of them on each set, increase difficulty by putting your feet on an elevated surface instead of the floor. You will really feel the difference in your shoulders. In the case of bench dips, you now want to do the normal dips instead, which you can do between 2 chairs or try to find a park or playground with parallel bars. If you want to advance from chin-ups, try the pull-ups instead. The wider grip will make the exercise more difficult. As for Supermans, in theory you could add some weight to your feet or hands, but you can also leave everything as is, because in this workout they're meant as a finishing exercise where progression is not the focus. Variations for the lower body routine are basically the same. Instead of the normal squat, you now do pistol squats, which are done on one foot, or weighted squats, again with a backpack. In the case of lunges, I also recommend wearing a backpack, but there are literally dozens of lunges variations to be found online. As for the glute bridge, you increase tension by using just one leg at a time now. Instead of the crunch and twisting crunch, you can try hanging leg raises and hanging oblique leg raises, which are both done hanging from a pull-up bar. And just like the Supermans, I would stay with the normal air bike as a finishing exercise. Push-ups target your chest, triceps, shoulders, and core. They are one of the most efficient body weight movements you can do and should be included in every body weight workout program. Lie on the floor face down and place your hands slightly wider than shoulder width while holding your torso up at arm's length. As you inhale, lower yourself downward while keeping your body straight until your chest almost touches the floor. Now breathe out and push your upper body back up to the initial position while squeezing your chest. Pause at the contracted position, then lower yourself downward again. Repeat for as many repetitions as needed. Many beginners have difficulties doing the regular push-up. In that case, I recommend doing knee push-ups. Here, you cross your ankles and have your feet in the air. Knee push-ups are performed in the same manner as the standard push-up, except that you're on your knees instead of your feet. The squat is one of the top 3 body weight exercises out there, the other 2 being the push-up and the pull-up. Even though it is considered a leg exercise, it's really a full body movement that works pretty much every muscle in your body. Training the squat movement will help you walk, run, jump, and lunge. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart and place your hands behind your head or to your sides. While inhaling, bend your knees and slowly lower your upper body. Descend until your thighs are parallel or just past parallel to the floor. Then raise your upper body as you exhale. Imagine pushing the floor with the heel of your foot as you straighten your legs. During the squat, make sure that you keep your chest up and that your knee stays in line with the tip of your foot. A tip for beginners: some people find it easier to keep their balance when extending their arms in front of them. Next to the squat, lunges are the best exercise to get stronger and more muscular legs. They target pretty much all the leg muscles, including your quads, glutes, hamstrings, and calves. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart and your hands on your hips. While inhaling, step with one leg forward and flex the knees to drop your hips. Keep your back straight and your front knee above the front foot. While exhaling, extend the knees and drive through the heel of your lead foot to raise yourself back up. Step forward and repeat the exercise on the opposite leg. A long lunge works your glutes while a short lunge targets the quads. Make sure that your lead knee points in the same direction as your lead foot throughout the exercise. For less intensity, try split squats. Here you also do the lunge movement, but your body remains in the same place. The glute bridge will strengthen not only your glutes, but also your hamstring and calves. It's an easy exercise that requires no equipment whatsoever. Lie flat on your back and position your hands by your side. Your knees should be bent and your feet be placed around shoulder width. While exhaling, lift your hips off the floor, pushing mainly through your heels. Keep your back straight and hold a contracted position for a second. While inhaling, slowly go back to the initial position. A possible variation that is a little more advanced is the single leg glute bridge. Set up like you would for the glute bridge and then raise one leg off the ground. Keep the leg straight as you push your hips up through the heel of the other leg. The pull-up is probably the best body weight back exercise out there. It will primarily target your lats while also working your biceps and shoulders. You will need a pull-up bar, but they can be bought cheaply on the internet or at any store that carries sporting goods. Using a grip that is a little wider than shoulder width, you want to grab the pull-up bar with your palms facing forward. With your arms extended and holding the bar, bring back your torso around 30 degrees and stick your chest out. While exhaling, pull up your body until your chin is above the bar by drawing the upper arms and the shoulders down and back. The pulling is done primarily with your back muscles rather than your biceps. Pause for a moment and then return to the original position. During the motion, your forearms should not move as they only hold the bar.
If you don't have enough strength to perform this exercise, ask a spotter to hold your legs or start with the slightly easier chin-up first. The chin-up is very similar to the pull-up. Instead of using an overhand grip where your palms point outwards, you will be using an underhand grip where your palms point inwards. Because this puts the biceps in a stronger line of pull, most people find chin-ups to be easier than pull-ups. Using a closer than shoulder width grip, grab the pull-up bar with your palms facing inward. With your arms extended and holding the bar, bring your torso back around 30 degrees and stick your chest out. While exhaling, pull your upper body up until your chin is just above the bar. The pulling is done primarily with your biceps and lats. Pause for a moment and then return to the original position. Make sure to keep your elbows close to your body, and just like in the pull-up, your forearms should do no other work than holding the bar. The pike push-up is not only a great push-up variation, but also one of the best body weight exercises for your upper body. It will help you build stronger shoulders while also working your triceps. It is the perfect go-to exercise for those working their way up to the handstand push-up. Assume a push-up position on the floor. Your arms should be straight and your hands be shoulder width apart. Bend at the waist, lift your hips up, and place your feet so your body forms an upside down V. While inhaling, bend your elbows and lower your head towards the floor. Stop just before your head touches the floor and pause for a second. While exhaling, press yourself up by contracting your triceps and shoulders. Make sure to keep your knees straight at all times. If you find the normal pike push-up too difficult, try performing the exercise on a bench with your hands positioned higher than your feet. This will reduce the difficulty. Bench dips are a great compound exercise that will target your triceps, chest, and shoulders. They are an easier variation of the normal dip, which is done using parallel bars. You can find a tutorial for the normal dips in the written exercise guide. For beginners, I recommend starting with this easier variation. Position a bench or chair behind your back and hold on to its edge with your hands fully extended at shoulder width. Your legs should be extended forward and perpendicular to your torso, with your heels resting on another bench or a similar object. While inhaling, lower your body by bending at the elbows until your upper arm and forearm create an angle slightly smaller than 90 degrees. Bring your torso up again by contracting your triceps and lift yourself back to the initial position. You want to keep your elbows as close as possible throughout the exercise. Your forearms should always be pointing down, and by placing a weight on your lap, you can increase the difficulty. Burpees, also known as squat thrusts, are one of the few equipment-free exercises that work your entire body and give you a great cardiovascular workout. The principal muscles involved include the quads, glutes, calves, hamstrings, chest, and triceps. Start with your feet shoulder width apart. Now lower your body into a squatting position, placing your hands in front of you on the floor. Kick your feet back so that you are in a push-up position. Keep your hands firmly on the ground to support your body. Now lower your chest to do a push-up. Bring your chest back up and kick your feet back into their original position. Stand up and jump into the air while raising your arms over your head. When doing many burpees in a row, make sure to breathe as much as you can and try to get into a rhythm with your breathing. Experiment with what works for you, recognizing that as you get more out of breath, your rhythm will change slightly. But always try to keep your breathing as steady as possible. The body row is an excellent upper body exercise and great for those who are just getting started out with fitness training and have problems doing full body weight pull-ups. Like the pull-up, it targets your back and biceps. To do the body row at home, you can either position a pull-up bar at around 2 to 3 feet above the floor, or you can hold on to the edge of a standard dinner table. Using a wider than shoulder width grip, grab the bar with the palms facing forward and position yourself hanging underneath the bar. Keep your body straight with your arms fully extended and your heels on the floor. While exhaling, pull your chest towards the bar by flexing your elbows. Retract your shoulder blades as you perform the movement. Pause at the top of the motion and then lower yourself to the initial position. Make sure that your forearms do not move and only hold the bar. A tip for beginners: the lower the bar, meaning the more horizontal your body is, the more difficult the exercise becomes. The body row underhand grip is a variation of the normal body row. Similar to the difference between pull-up and chin-up, you will target both your back and biceps, but with a larger focus on the biceps. Just like the normal body row prepares you for the pull-up, this is a great exercise to work your way up to the full body weight chin-up. Using a shoulder width grip, grab the bar with the palms facing inward and position yourself hanging underneath the bar. Keep your body straight with your arms fully extended and your heels on the floor. While exhaling, pull your chest towards the bar by flexing your elbows. Retract your shoulder blades as you perform the movement. Pause at the top of the motion and lower yourself to the initial position. The Superman core exercise is a medium intensity exercise that will strengthen your lower back and core muscles by isolating them as you lift your arms and legs off the floor. As the name suggests, the motion emulates Superman while he flies. Lie straight and face down on an exercise mat or the floor and extend your arms fully in front of you. While exhaling, simultaneously raise your legs, arms, and chest off the floor and hold this contraction for a few seconds. Make sure to squeeze your lower back during this contraction. While inhaling, slowly begin to lower your legs, arms, and chest back down to the initial position. The Superman exercise can also be performed using only one arm and one leg at a time. Simply elevate your right arm, right leg, and side of your chest, hold the position, and then do the same with the left side. The ab crunch is probably the most well-known ab exercise out there. It's really easy to do, and if you have never done the exercise before, you will instantly feel your abdominal muscles working. Lie on your back with your feet resting on a bench and your knees bent at a 90-degree angle. You can also place them flat on the floor, as I am doing here in the video. With your hands lightly on either side of your head or neck, begin to roll your shoulders off the floor. They should come up off the floor only a few inches, while your lower back should remain on the floor. At the top of the motion, contract your abdominals hard and maintain the contraction for a second. Then, slowly lower to the original position. You want to keep your lower back against the floor and your hips straight during the entire exercise. Focus on slow and controlled movements. Don't cheat yourself by swinging your upper body. The twisting crunch exercise is a variation of the normal crunch, which places more emphasis on the oblique abdominals towards the side of the stomach. Lie flat on the mat or the floor and position your hands behind your head. Flex and twist your waist to raise your upper torso. Rotate the trunk to bring your right elbow in towards your left knee. Return until the backs of your shoulders almost touch the floor. The same motion can be applied doing the inverse and bringing your left elbow in towards your right knee. While you cannot increase the difficulty of this exercise, you can concentrate on slow speed and perfect execution. Also, don't cheat yourself by jerking your upper body. If you want, you can also do all of your reps for one side first and then switch to the other side. The air bike is a great exercise that will work your abdominal muscles by imitating the bike riding motion while you lay down flat on the floor. Lie on the floor or a mat with your lower back pressed to the ground. Position your hands lightly on either side of your head and bring the knees up until your lower legs are parallel to the floor. Simultaneously, kick forward with the right leg and bring in the knee of the left leg. While exhaling, bring your right elbow close to your left knee by crunching to the side. While inhaling, return to the initial position. The entire movement should simulate a cycle pedal motion. Repeat the exercise with the opposite leg and continue alternating. Bent knee hip raises primarily target your abdominal muscles. The exercise works both the lower and middle abs and is great for strengthening the key muscles that help build up the core. The secondary muscles targeted include the thighs and the hip flexors. Lie flat on the floor with your knees bent at around a 45-degree angle. Your arms should be right next to your sides. While exhaling, bring your knees in towards you as you keep them bent. Using only your lower abs, continue this movement until your knees are just above your chest. Contract your abs at the top of the movement, and then slowly lower your legs while you straighten them at the same time. For increased difficulty, try normal leg raises. Here you keep both legs straight throughout the entire movement, and you raise them by only using your abs.
Not needing equipment is a huge benefit for home workouts. That being said, this benefit can sometimes turn into a disadvantage if you want to develop certain muscle groups more than others. The full body exercises that are used in my program are definitely enough to get you in great shape and gain a substantial amount of muscle. But I often get asked how you can build muscle in specific parts of the body, for example in your arms, without needing to go to the gym. This is where things get a little more difficult, because there really is no bodyweight exercise that only trains arms. Push-ups, pull-ups, and dips are all compound movements that train several muscles at once. That's why they are so great for beginners and need to be included in every workout. But it also means that if you really want to add isolation exercises like bicep curls to your home workout, you need to get creative. To help you out, I will now show you how you can make yourself some homemade dumbbells within 5 minutes. It's really that easy, and you probably have everything you need for them at home already. The first thing you need is a normal bag for groceries. I recommend you use one that is made out of fabric instead of plastic because they're usually more durable. Next, you need an empty container that you can fill with water. I'm using an empty supplement box, but a bunch of water bottles will also do the trick. Afterwards, you simply fill the container with water and place it in the bag. Of course, you can also put anything else that's heavy into the bag. Books or food cans also work, but the great thing about water is that you can easily increase it over time, and that way implement progressive overload. For example, if I fill up half of the supplement container today, then to implement progressive overload, I will add a bit more water with each new workout until one day the container is completely full. As you can see, this is very simple and easy to put together, and like I said before, you probably have all these things at home already. So the next question is, how do you use this homemade setup? I will now show you 2 isolation exercises that target the arms: the bicep curl and the tricep extension. Let's start with the bicep curl. As the name suggests, it targets your biceps, which is the muscle that helps bend the arm towards you. To do it, stand up straight and grab the back handles with one hand. As you can see, I grabbed the handles with a piece of cloth. That way they don't cut into my hands when doing the exercise. Next, you slowly raise the back until your forearm touches your biceps. At the top, wait for a short moment and then lower the bag again. Repeat this for the recommended number of reps and then switch sides and repeat it with the other arm. Next, we have tricep extensions. Your triceps is the muscle that straightens your arm and is the antagonist muscle to the biceps. To do it, again, stand up straight and grab the back handles with one hand. Now raise your elbow above your head with your arm still bent. You can use the other hand to stabilize your arm, like I'm doing in the video. Now raise the back slowly until your arm is almost straight. You don't need to straighten it completely, since this can put a lot of pressure on your elbow joint. At the top, wait for a short moment and then lower the bag again. Repeat this for the recommended number of reps and then also switch and repeat with the other arm. And that's it. Two of my favorite isolation exercises that you can now do at home. At this point, you're probably wondering how you can add them to your workout. Like I said before, isolation exercises can never substitute compound exercises. So if you really want to add them to your workout, simply do them at the end of your upper body workout, because then your arms are already warmed up. 2 to 3 sets of each will be more than enough. Just make sure that you increase the resistance over time. Happy lifting!
In the last few lessons, I taught you everything you need to know in order to build a great physique on the physical level. Let's now look at the mental level. I will show you how to stay highly motivated through smart goal setting and how to reach those goals with a good action plan. Let's first talk about a phenomenon I call the 10-week motivation. Most beginners start off their first few weeks highly motivated. They really want to change something in their lives and stick to the workout regimen and new diet. However, this also creates a lot of expectations, and when after 10 weeks they don't see any noticeable results, many will start missing workouts and pay less attention to what they're eating. Then, a few weeks later, usually after 3 months, many will quit altogether and just go back to their old lifestyle. Now, don't worry, with this program you will see results, that I can promise you. There is something else you need to make sure of though in order to stay on track. You have to set clear goals. If you don't know where you're going, how can you ever know if you got there? Because the goal setting process is so important in order to stay motivated, we'll go through it step by step and I will teach you everything you need to know about it. Okay, so the first important thing when setting goals is to make them smart. You probably already know this concept, but let me go through it very quickly. The SMART formula forces you to make your goals specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Specific means that you have a much greater chance of accomplishing a specific goal than a general one. At this stage, it is important that you translate your general thoughts of what you want to accomplish into something more detailed. For example, if you want to live a healthier lifestyle, what does that mean? Do you want to exercise more? Do you want to lose weight? Build muscle? All of that should be part of your goal setting. The next step is to make your goals measurable. This means establishing a criteria for success. For example, how many extra pounds do you want to lose? Or how many push-ups do you want to be able to do? Try to put your goals into concrete numbers. That will make it easier to track your progress afterwards. When coming up with measurable goals, it is also important to make them attainable. That means you should choose goals that can actually be achieved. Now this part is a little tricky, because on the one hand, you should choose more abstract big goals that will really motivate you, and on the other hand, you should make smaller milestones, for example on a weekly basis, to keep you on track and remind you that you are making progress. The R in SMART tells you to make relevant goals. This means answering the question of why you're doing all of this. Some people train to look better, others want to be more healthy. There really is no right or wrong reason. You just have to make sure to know yours. And lastly, you should make your goals timely. This means choosing a time frame and defining a deadline. As for the time frame, I advise you to choose a big goal for the long term and smaller milestones for the short term. Now, once you've come up with goals and milestones that really motivate you, that really tell you why you're doing all of this, try to put them into writing. Take a sheet of paper and write down your SMART goals. Once you've done that, share them with your friends and family. This will make you accountable not only to yourself, but also to others. This can really be a great motivator and create some positive pressure. Next, you want to create an action plan. This means taking your big goals and breaking them down in smaller individual goals. When you write them down on a calendar leading up to your big goal, you'll also need to specify what exactly you have to do in order to accomplish them. Once you've created this timeline, take a good look at it and commit to it. Tell yourself that this is what you want and that you will achieve it. Over the course of the next few weeks, you should track your progress and always check if you're completing those smaller milestones. If at one point your goals should turn out to be too easy or too difficult, you can change them, but ask yourself if this is really what you want, because it might mess up your entire action plan.
Studies have shown that willpower is the number one obstacle we face in achieving our goals. People that lack willpower often feel guilty about not having enough self-control and worry about letting themselves and others down. This can have drastic consequences, because ultimately someone like this will feel that their life is not under their control. This feeling will kill any motivation and leave you feeling numb and exhausted. But what happens if you have willpower? The same studies indicate that people with higher levels of willpower earn more money, do better in school, and generally live happier and healthier lives. These findings paint a clear picture. More willpower should always be favored over less. Now, of course, no one is perfect, and you will not become a master of your willpower overnight. But even if we only take baby steps every day, they will accumulate over time and bring us big benefits. Now, before we talk about ways to increase your willpower, let's first define what it really is. Willpower always relates to having goals and acting in accordance with them. So if you want to lose weight, build muscle, and live a healthier life, you have to do certain things, and some of them will not always be pleasurable. Someone with willpower will still do these things because they have to be done in order to reach their goal. But someone without willpower will give in to the temptations and not be able to say no. They will go out partying when they should be studying for an important exam, or they will binge eat for their third day in a row when their goal is to lose weight. Sometimes a lack of willpower is less obvious, however. Sometimes we tell ourselves we will do something but never actually do it. Procrastination is the result, and if not addressed, will get worse over time. So how do you avoid this vicious cycle? The good news is that willpower can be trained like a muscle. At first, it will be difficult and you will be drawn back to your old habits. But if you stay on course, you will find it easier and easier to say no to temptations and actually enjoy the pursuit of your goals. When we think of disciplined people, we usually think of someone who gets up at 5 a.m., runs for 6 miles, then eats a healthy breakfast before going to work at an awesome job that they love. They never waste time and their accomplishments are astonishing. Now, even though this is what self-discipline can look like, you don't have to go this far to bring some structure into your life and make sure to rely only on motivation, which, as you learned in the last lesson, is not a good idea. So what are some simple steps you can take to start building self-discipline? Here are 8 ways to help yourself get started. First, start small. Building great discipline takes time, and you don't need to wake up tomorrow as a completely different person. Similar to new habits, it's best to focus on only one thing you want to improve and start going from there. Our tradition to make resolutions on New Year's Day usually doesn't work because people make too many resolutions and lose track of all of the progress they want to make. For best results, pick just one thing and dedicate your energy towards it. Next, ask yourself, what do I want to do differently? Do you want to lose weight? Yes, probably, otherwise you wouldn't have signed up for this course. But also ask yourself which changes you are willing to make and which you aren't. Losing weight will take effort, but you don't need to restructure your entire life around it. If you don't like most vegetables, focus on the ones you do like, and if you are a sweet tooth, look for ways you can fit a small chocolate bar into your diet. Flexible dieting here is the magic word and will help you see progress even if you don't adhere 100% to the standards of healthy eating. When focusing on health and weight loss, pick something that is practical and that will make a real difference in your life. That could be small things like walking up the stairs instead of taking the elevator, or limiting the ice cream you eat. Ask other people who have done it before you which changes were the easiest but brought the largest results. Dieting and exercise is highly individual, and we all like different things. For me, for example, just reducing my candy intake already led to a huge reduction in calories and therefore in weight. So what you want to do is look at other people who have lost weight in the past and figure out the characteristics that you are missing. Then you pick an important one that you believe would be easy to implement and build on that. Remember, you're an adult. We're all adults, and being an adult means to take responsibility for your actions and doing your best to become a better person. As an adult, you don't sit around and wait until someone tells you what to do. You set your own goals and then you pursue them. There will be setbacks and obstacles, of course, and this is normal. It's no sin to fall down, just to not get up again. Disciplined people are the ones who succeed, and discipline means that you keep going even when you'd rather not. Don't worry, you can start small. Make small and simple changes first, like I did with my candy consumption. Instead of several Snicker bars, I would just eat one. The habit and triggers we created in the last section can help remind you of this and will keep you on track. The clearer you have defined your goals, the easier it will be to pursue them and eventually reach them. The beginning is always the toughest part, but once you've gained some momentum, things will fall into place and you will see results big time. Make a list. We already covered this before, but part of self-discipline is knowing what you need to do and then doing it. Oftentimes, when we are not used to behaving in a disciplined manner, we don't know which activity to do next. To take out the guesswork, prepare a list of tasks that you need to accomplish every day. You will see that checking off these items on the list will always be like a small reward and will definitely help develop more self-discipline. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Maintaining discipline is all about the right preparation. If you know that you will have hunger cravings, put the chocolate and candy somewhere where you can't reach them before the cravings happen. Don't even leave it up to chance, but simply eliminate this variable from the equation. You can't eat something that isn't there. Similarly, you can prepare smaller meals, so if you're still hungry afterwards, you would have to cook an entire new meal. These are small things that will have a great impact on your results. Make use of technology. Technology is always a two-edged sword. It can help us be more productive and disciplined, but it can also distract us, like in the case of social media. So what you want to do is first eliminate all the distractions that keep you from following through with your habits. Make sure to turn off your phone when you're at the gym or when you want to cook something nice. You can also limit your daily Facebook time with certain apps and programs that will automatically block access to a website after a certain amount of time has passed. Tools that can further help you include fitness trackers that monitor your weight, exercise regimen, and sleep every night. Fitbit, for example, helps you track all of this. While you need to record some of the data, Fitbit connects with other devices to automatically capture your weight from a synchronized scale, for example. Another great tool is Coach.me, which helps you form a new habit with their habit tracking app. Limit the possibility of temptation. We all give in to temptations sometimes. What you want to do is to eliminate or reduce the possibility for temptations to occur in the first place. Don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry, for example. Figure out a way to make the things you struggle with less available. This ties in with the preparation aspect I talked about before. You have to recognize that temptations will happen and you won't always be able to resist them. You also want to think about important decisions before you actually have to make them. If you want to establish a new morning routine, go to bed earlier so that you have time to get up and do it without feeling pressed for time. The amazing thing is that the more often you avoid temptations, the easier it will get. You basically train your discipline muscle to say no. And lastly, remember that failure is always part of succeeding. Don't beat yourself up if you have made a mistake. You will not make yourself perfectly disciplined overnight, so expect some failure to happen along the way. But like I said before, these obstacles can be planned for. If you understand that you will fail from time to time, one mistake won't kill your drive and you will want to keep going anyways. Also make sure to celebrate all the successes you've achieved, big and small. For example, if you've accomplished a certain goal for this week, reward yourself and celebrate in a way that won't undermine success. So if you're eating healthy, then no food rewards. Building self-discipline can help in all areas of your life, not just weight loss. Use this course to come up with a game plan and then stick to it. Don't worry about perfection, but do worry about execution. Also, don't worry about failure, but worry about becoming better today than you were yesterday. The more you train self-discipline, the easier it will get.
Now that you know how to set smart goals and come up with an action plan, here are 3 more tips that helped me stay motivated over the years. First, I advise you to get a workout partner and meet somewhere to do your exercises together. A good workout buddy can make a huge difference as time goes on. Those days that you would have stayed at home because you didn't feel like exercising, you'll not only be accountable to yourself but also to him, and he'll get you to come anyways and push you to give it your best. Another great trick is to put your money where your mouth is. What I mean by that is to create a monetary incentive to reach your goal. This can be a bet with a friend over whether or not you'll lose that extra 5 pounds in the next few weeks. Or you could invest in some fancy exercise equipment that you'll put in your bedroom and that will remind you of your fitness goal every time you go to sleep and every time you wake up the next morning. One last thing to remember, we're all human and setbacks will happen. You won't reach every single goal you've set for yourself, and this is not the end of the world. When you see that you're falling behind on your goals, don't freak out about it and simply accept it. Research has shown that this is the best way to avoid the so-called what the hell effect, where people tell themselves, oh, I've already messed up, so what the hell, I can mess up some more. This is not what you want. The best way to face setbacks is to simply cut your losses, get back on track, and move on.
Now that you've reached the end of my program, here are a few final words. I hope you enjoyed watching the lessons as much as I did making them. My goal was to put everything you need to know about building muscle and losing fat into one program while keeping it short and without fluff and nonsense. To help you stay motivated, I created a private Facebook group called Simple Muscle Academy. I highly recommend you join it. It's only for students of my courses, so you can ask questions, interact with others, and share your success stories. You can find the link to it in the bonus lecture at the end of this program. If you want even more free advice on fitness and dieting, be sure to check out my website simple-muscle.com. I publish new articles pretty much every week. And last but not least, if you have a question, don't hesitate to contact me. I was a beginner once too, and know how it feels with all the information out there. If there's anything I can help you with, feel free to shoot me a message. No matter what goal in life you want to accomplish, you will have to come up with a strategy. Without the proper strategy and game plan, a goal is nothing more than a dream. When it comes to meal planning and nutrition, your goals might be to lose weight, to gain weight, to lose fat, or to gain muscle, or to simply live a healthy life. Whatever your goals may be, this program is meant to teach you how to reach your goals and show you what strategies and principles are proven to work. In order to give you a complete and concise introduction into nutrition, we have to start with the most abstract principles and work our way towards more practical advice later in the course. So in this lesson, I want to teach you the most important dieting principles that govern your body composition and will determine whether or not you will reach your goals. Just like a properly functioning car must be based on the principles of internal combustion, structural design, and computer control, a diet must be based on the principles I'm about to show you. Together they will make up what we call a meal and diet plan, and you have to understand each aspect to execute your plan correctly. All of these principles play an important role in your diet, but some are a lot more important than others. Think about it this way: the most important component of a car is the engine. Without it, your car won't go anywhere, no matter what the other features are. Now, the frame and the wheels come in close second, and the control system's right behind. But after that, the details are much less important. Even a car with only a steering wheel but no seats or display can get you from point A to point B. When applying this framework to nutrition and dieting, the most important principles are calorie balance, macronutrient amounts, nutrient timing, food composition, and lastly, supplements. As you can see, your calorie balance is the most important principle of any diet, and has by far the largest effect on your body composition. In its most basic form, it implies that your weight gain is mostly a matter of eating more calories, and weight loss is mostly a matter of eating less calories. You probably already know this and think it's obvious, but trust me when I tell you that a lot of people neglected this principle when setting up their diet plan. Determining your optimal calorie intake can be more difficult than you think, but don't worry, I will teach you everything in more detail in the following lessons. For now, just keep in mind that calories are everything. They're the most important aspect of your diet, period. Macronutrients are in second place. Whereas calories define how much you eat, macronutrients define what you eat. Eating the right amount of protein, carbs, and fats makes an important difference in your body composition, especially if you want to build muscle or lose fat. Nutrient timing comes in at third on the list, and it basically states when you eat. While third place might sound pretty high up on the list, it's really much less impactful than the first two principles. More on this in the following lesson. Food composition takes the fourth place and is a minor detail of your dieting process. While food composition is important for your overall health, it should only be considered when the top three priorities are in order, which is why we'll talk about it later in the course. The same applies to supplements. As the name implies, supplements are meant to supplement an already effective diet. No supplement in the world will magically make you overcome errors in your calorie balance, macros, or timing. When designing a diet, it must be that you address the bigger picture first. If you focus on the important things first and come up with a functional diet plan, the right supplements will further improve your diet. Of course, I will show you all the steps involved in this process, but let's get started with essential factors first. The last thing you want to do is invest all your time and energy into small details that have little to no effect on the outcome of your diet. Like so many others, you would quickly lose your motivation and give up dieting. This is not what this course is about. Here, we first build a solid foundation and later add the small improvements that will make your diet perfect. So without further ado, let's look at each dieting principle closely and gain an understanding of its impact on your diet success.
One of the most common questions asked by my students is how can you increase testosterone levels without using steroids? This is a valid question because we all know that testosterone is the primary hormone responsible for muscle growth, sex drive, and oftentimes overall well-being in men. So no wonder guys want more of it. Of course, there are also quite a few women who prefer to have higher testosterone levels. So the question then is, are there safe strategies we can use to naturally increase our testosterone levels? And the answer is yes, definitely. What you have to understand though is that these strategies have limits. Many people who ask these kind of questions are beginners looking for a fast and easy way to build more muscle. Even though the strategies I'm going to talk about are proven to work, they will not make you look like a bodybuilder or double the amount of muscle you can build within a month. Much of your body's ability to produce testosterone is limited by your genetics. So what we can try to do is to take advantage of your full potential, which will have a positive impact on your muscle gains and overall mood. But don't think of this as some sort of diet hack that will make you become the Incredible Hulk without ever setting foot into a gym. Also, what I want to make clear from the beginning is that I'm not going to talk about some sort of testosterone boosting supplement. Why? Because the vast majority of the supplements marketed as testosterone boosters simply don't work. None of the legal testosterone supplements will have a significant impact on your testosterone levels and or your ability to build muscle. That's the hard truth. So even though most sales pitches will tell you otherwise, they're mostly a waste of your time and money. With that being said, here are some legit ways to increase your testosterone. Number one is higher fat intake. Like I said before, dietary fat is important for the production of hormones, including testosterone. Studies have linked lower fat diets to lower testosterone levels and higher fat diets to higher testosterone levels, thus making a sufficient fat intake an important aspect of your diet. So how much fat should you eat per day to make sure you're getting enough? The minimum number of 20% of your calories I gave in the lesson on fat intake will usually be enough for most people. But if you want to test things out, you can go a little higher until maybe 30% to see if you notice any differences. Of course, that fat should still come from a good mix of saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated fats. Number 2 is vitamin D. Vitamin D has become one of the most recommended supplements over the last few years due to its proven positive effects on immune function, bone health, mood, reducing the risks of a variety of diseases, and more. Unfortunately, many Europeans and North Americans have vitamin D deficiencies, especially during the winter, so bringing your vitamin D levels back up to normal can help with testosterone production. But how can you find out for sure if you're deficient? Go to your doctor and get your blood tested. That's the only way to know for sure. If you have a legit deficiency, your doctor will probably prescribe a fairly high dose of vitamin D to get things back to normal as quickly as possible, then followed by some smaller maintenance dose to continue taking from that point on. Number 3 on the list is zinc. Research also shows a link between zinc deficiencies and lower testosterone levels. And just like with vitamin D, when zinc supplementation brings things up from deficient to optimal levels, testosterone increases right along with it. Also, just like with vitamin D, if you're already getting a sufficient amount of zinc, additional supplementation beyond that point will not have any positive effects on your testosterone levels. Due to the additional benefit of zinc for your immune system, I supplement with a fairly standard dose of 10 milligrams per day. Alternatively, you could also increase your consumption of food high in zinc, such as shellfish, beef, lamb, and certain nuts and seeds. But I'm personally not a big fan of micromanaging my diet. Next is alcohol. As you can probably imagine, large and excessive amounts of alcohol can potentially harm your testosterone levels. So my advice here is pretty straightforward. Try to limit your alcohol intake. You don't have to stop entirely drinking it, but when you're going to drink it, stay within the realm of moderate alcohol consumption and you will probably be just fine. But the more you exceed this moderate level, the more negative effects you will notice. Of course, not just on your testosterone levels, but on your general health. Another important factor is sleep. Studies show an association between insufficient amounts of sleep and lower testosterone levels. Studies where participants had to sleep less than 5 hours per night showed an immediate 10 to 15% reduction in testosterone levels. Now, of course, very few people will sleep less than 5 hours, but I know quite a few people who only sleep 6. And this is usually not sufficient. Anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night will be ideal for most people, and going below this will negatively impact your testosterone level and your overall health. And the last thing I should mention is stress. The more stress we experience in our lives, be it mental or physical stress, the more our cortisol levels increase. And the higher cortisol levels increase and the longer they remain elevated, the more problems you will have in terms of overall health, well-being, and, of course, testosterone. Stress comes in a variety of forms. Most people will be thinking of the typical stuff. Issues with your job, school, work, family, friends, partner, etc. This kind of stress is often mental, and reducing it will likely be something you want to talk about with your therapist and not your diet coach. But there's also physical stress. For example, not enough sleep, like I mentioned before, or overtraining or the wrong kind of training. Excessive calorie deficits and digestive issues also count as physical stress. And these are the things you can change in the short term. This nutrition program alone should help you avoid excessive calorie deficits and digestive issues. For the right workouts, either check out my other courses or talk to a personal trainer you trust. Simply keep in mind that whatever you can do in your life to reduce stress and thus keep your cortisol levels where you want them to be will benefit your testosterone level and your overall well-being.